Welcome, 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 everybody, to another episode of the Tapping into Life podcast. It is so great to know that each and every one of you are continuing the journey of self discovery, self identity, and tapping into the real you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege to be having a conversation with Mr. Charlie B. So, everybody, welcome him. Welcome, Charlie. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Matt?
I'm doing pretty good, pretty good. This is one of the conversations that I was excited to have based on the icebreaker conversation that was a whole nother podcast episode yesterday.
Exactly. On a whole nother level, huh?
So before we get into the conversation, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And while you're doing that, I'm going to grab my coffee right quick.
Oh, no problem, brother. Well, I mean, a little bit about me, you can catch me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. My channel basically is called Speaking the Truth. And on my platform, I want all men to understand that, it's okay to have feelings and validate yourself as humans because, if nobody is hearing us out, all of the weight that's on our shoulders, that takes a toll on a person. So on my platform, I want it to be a safe space where everybody can come in as a community, get to know each other, let a little bit of steam off their chest, excuse me, and just try to have a happier and better life.
Okay. Okay. So basically, we're on the same wavelength and ride the
There
same
you go.
wave. Right. All right. So tell us a little bit about you growing up.
Ooh, man, growing up. Well, I'm the first child. Well, I'm the first boy out of nine kids, and back then it was kind of a tough situation. My older two sisters, they wasn't in a household, so it made me had to grow up a whole lot faster. My mom, she was there, but she wasn't there, so trying to fix my little brothers and sisters' food or going out and trying to make extra money and doing different things like that, it showed me a different way in life that I really wasn't ready for.
Okay. So you basically played a parental role in the upbringing of your younger siblings. How did that affect your childhood?
Well, it made me miss out on a lot of key opportunities, like I'm 38 now, well about to be 38 this year, and you know a lot of kids back then when we're growing up and even through our 20s, we have a lot of dreams and aspirations and different things like that. And for me, it kind of inflicted those things because as a man you're always taught to build a foundation, but when your foundation is already rocky, it's hard to really imagine yourself doing anything else other than what you have to do to survive.
Yeah. What I've seen is because I actually know people who they were in that same situation to where you know uh, they were probably raised in a single parent household and they were the other parent, and being the other parent, they're still the child, but they're the other parent. So yeah, they have to, go to school and things of that nature. But outside of school, they were, you know, uh, helping raising their siblings and make sure they get on the bus and you know, going out to get that job to help make ends meet in the household. And having conversations with these individuals, you know, it took an effect on their childhood because, at that age that they were actually doing these things, they were teenagers. Teenagers, we ready to peek our head out the ground, open the doors of the world and see what everything is about and learn a little bit. And with teenagers, we're gonna see how, what we can and can't do and experience those years as a teenager. But by the time they got finished, raising their siblings, these people were grown. So it was a period of what teenagers, 13 to 20 or 13 to 18. So it was a period of 5 years that, in my opinion, were one of the most important years as a child. They no longer had, they weren't be able to experience that full force. So it's like, okay, now, I'm in my 20s, I'm not at home. Let me go out and do this and do that. And, so they're kind of catching up. Did you feel that you had to catch up once you were out of that assignment of raising your siblings?
Yeah, I really do. Because, like you said, at that age, you're trying to party and be mischievous and things like that. So, you know, growing up so fast, I feel like, I missed a whole lot of different things growing up. So, I had that span late in my 20s, like 6, 7 years where that's all I wanted to do was party, 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 party. But, like you said, now realizing it, that's kind of how you set yourself up for failure. You know what I mean? Because you're so worried about trying to catch up and you're missing out on key life opportunities.
Hmm. I always say you're 20, it's the training 20s, right? Because you're out here, you're a baby in the adult world. So you came, you've ended your childhood and now you've been birthed into the adult world. And, you know, those 20, like you're learning how to walk as an adult, learning how to talk as an adult, learning how to feel around as an adult. And, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I know it comes natural, like naturally this is going to happen, but we have people in situations where things happen to where, in their childhood that it affects the training, right? So when it affects the training, you are now losing focus because you know the system of how or the nature of how you navigate through your 20s is kind of a little scrambled a little bit,
Right.
you know. And for me, I have an older brother and a younger sister, and mommy was always there. Like she was there when she wasn't there. If she wasn't at work, she was still in the house. you know, she was one of those parents that she had a clone somewhere that we knew nothing about.
Right.
Like, you know, um, so, but my mom raised us to be in the event, thank God it didn't happen, but in the event that she was no longer with us, we had the knowledge to do the basic fundamentals, you
Correct.
know. Um, and what she did, and I always tell her this, I said, Yo, you really tricked us. You and your generation really tricked us as, as kids, and I'm going to explain this, mommy. And so, because y'all made adulthood look so freaking fun.
Tell me about
Like,
it.
y'all made it look so much fun. Y'all could do what y'all wanted to do. You never followed rules. And then y'all had, I mean, my mom from in my household, my mom had us paying the bill. So she would give us the money with the bill, and we would go to whatever facility and we would pay the water bill, and go to this one and pay the electric bill, go here and pay the rent. And she made it seem so fun to the point that we were sitting here fighting over who was paying the bill and pay, whatever company. And but she was a teacher assistant in the exceptional class at a high school that I graduated from. So she would help them get ready for the adult world. So she had little activities to where you can balance the checkbook, deposit money, withdraw money, pay this bill, pay that bill. And that was so much fun to us,
Correct.
We didn't know that she was preparing us from, for the real world, right? Because it's like,
Right.
okay,
Right.
these little activities, we got money, you know what I'm saying? We got money. And then we get to the adult world and it's like, okay, whoa, wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
Like
And
this
I
is totally
remember,
different from everything you showed me.
right, right. You didn't tell us that there was a fine print on the contract of adulthood that we signed at
Right.
age 18. like you didn't. But she taught, we knew the basic fundamentals. You know, we knew how to write that resume, write that cover letter, write your references. We knew how to fill out an application. We knew how to properly dress, for an interview. And do you think kids now have those that basic life skills to navigate in their adulthood?
Nowadays, I really don't think so, because back then, like you said, to be honest with you, your mom showing you all those different things in life, that probably helped you a long way throughout, the different things that you've accomplished, the different things that you have done in life, since you learned it at an early age. But nowadays, kids, they don't want to learn about that. Only thing they need is a tablet, a phone, YouTube. They're exposing themselves to what they feel that the world wants them to be, instead of having their own mind and doing things from the heart. They're trying to follow a trend instead of being their natural self. So I really don't feel like they have those proper steps, because they really don't teach you that much in school either, from back when we were in school. So nowadays, they're just kind of leaving them out there to dry.
That yeah, yeah, and basic fundamentals like that it should be taught in school, but also in the household.
Correct.
And so by the time I actually started taking those classes in school that would have taught me how to do these things, I already knew how to do it. I was acing them classes left and right.
Right. Like, I'm
you
already
know,
prepared, teach.
already prepared. And when I, went into hotel management, I was responsible for the hiring and the terminating and the putting up the ad so people can apply and all this managerial stuff. And it hit me. I'm sitting here, they set up to where, we had like walk-in interviews or whatnot. So I'm sitting here, ready. I had set aside my whole day to just do interviews. And I remember seeing these people, I'm going to go out here and say it. It was the Gen Zs. But anyway,
Oh, them
you
Gen
know,
Z.
it was the Gen Zs for the most part. They came in, and I was always taught, you dress as if though you're going to church. That was, it during that time, it was no business casual or stuff like that. That didn't come to later on. But it
Right.
was, you dress as if though you're going to church. So it was a dress shirt. For men, it was a dress shirt, dress pants or some slacks, your shoes, you wear a tie, make sure your facial hair and your head and you would look as if though you were going to church. And
Right.
so I see these kids walk in here and I'm like, I'm thinking they just regular guests. Like I didn't know until I'm like, okay, well, they sit in the next section that I'm supposed to be interviewing these people. And like, why they dressed like that? Some of these people, they went like they were going to the club. Some just had sweatshirts on, like they just got out of bed. A few of them had bonnets on, and I'm like, you know what? Okay.
Uh,
And you couldn't judge them because if they did not know, if they were not taught how to come in for an interview, you know, how can me or anybody else hold them accountable for it?
I
You
mean,
know,
you
so
can't.
mm-mm,
You can't hold them accountable for it. I mean, like you said, you can't judge a book by its cover, but at the
mm-mm,
same time, that's where the knowledge of exploring the internet. I tell my kids all the time. They come in and they ask me a question, and I say, "Well, you have a computer in your hand, right?" "No, it's my phone." I said, "It's a computer, right?" They say, "Okay, yeah, Dad, you're right." I said, Google the same thing that you just asked me. Anything that you want to know, anything that you need to find out, only thing you got to do is look it up. That's all
mhm,
you have to do nowadays. But people won't take the time to do that because they feel like they're entitled to something. They feel like they're owed something. And that's really not how you go about life. You have to give respect to get respect. So if you
mhm,
want me to take you serious as an applicantee, then show me, you know what I mean? Show me that you're dressed to impress and I'm coming in to be the best version of myself that I can give to your company.
mhm, absolutely. And and what about I've expressed to a lot of people who I've supervised, you can be the best at what you do, and your work ethics may be what the company needs, and you may be the one of the strongest assets to the company, but it's all about your appearance as well. Because you walk through those doors, you clock in, you working, you don't know who's watching you.
Right.
Because if today, if we take all the celebrities and we put them in a big room and we ask, how did you get your claim to fame? You will be surprised that majority of these celebrities, they just saw, somebody saw them. They were working at the Popeyes and somebody saw them. They were working, cleaning the room of a hotel and somebody saw them. They were walking down the street, somebody saw them. Like, you will really, really be surprised. Uh, but I don't think that a lot of these kids, I don't think it might be now, it's being taught again now, but there's a big gap in years that it wasn't taught because it's like, okay, if anything, outside of your basic science, math, and reading comprehension, please be able to fill out, to create a resume.
Right.
And, they bring these resumes in, and I'm like, okay, okay. Yeah, but it's different because like I said, we were taught basic fundamentals. We had those things. We had those business classes and those what do you call it? Home economic classes.
Yeah.
hmm we had them that taught us to how to function as an adult. At least the first few years, at between 18 and 25.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like that's crazy, and but like you said, a lot of that stems from they were performing adult actions pre-adulthood, so like in your case, and like I said, I know a few friends of mine that when they go and they raising their siblings while mom or dad or whomever is at work, it, it just takes away, and a lot of parents now, I'm like, no, you know my kids, they're going to be kids, so they're going to walk in a child's place. They're going to speak in a child's place. They're going to be kids. If they're kids, they're going to be kids.
Right.
They're, if I have to have a babysitter, okay, yeah, you make sure they eat their bologna sandwiches or something like that. But there are a lot of parents now that are like, okay, no, I'm going to make sure that proper childcare is in place in the midst of my absence. And you do have a lot of kids that they're on the tablets, they're on the cell phones, they don't have responsibilities like we did.
Tell me about it, man. If you even thought about cutting on that TV before that room was clean or those dishes was done, oh, you would know about it for about a week.
Because I'll tell you how my mom was. I was washing dishes at 4.
Ooh.
I was cutting grass at 6. I was washing clothes and doing my laundry at 8.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was chores. Like, it wasn't no, oh, just make sure your room was tidy. Yeah, that, but it was, okay, here's a can of Scrubber Bubble. This is what it does. And this is how you use it. Clean that bathroom.
And I can really imagine seeing your mom, like, she telling you, like, right now, this is what you need to use, young man.
Right. It's like, this is bleach. And this is what bleach does.
Right.
Don't get it on your clothes. Put a little bit in the dishwater. Use hot water. Like, she was that. And it wasn't like she put it as if though we were not. We didn't feel as if though we were slaves and it was a hard knock life and we were on the Annie movie. It was, okay, this is responsibility, Right. And so, cutting the grass and doing all these things, it seemed fun until we started getting a little older and we started realizing, okay, this one right here, we're gonna have to watch her because I think this is a trick. And
right.
So, washing dishes for me, I hated washing dishes and I hated doing laundry. I could do everything else.
Right.
But them two, I just couldn't do it. But yeah, like kids now, they're kids, but it is they don't know what outside is. We were outside.
Right. Because I try to tell mines all the time, like, give me a day. Put your phone down from the time that you wake up and don't pick it up to the next morning. Let's go outside. Let's rip and run all day. And when the street lights come on, that's when you need to be back in front of the house. And I'm telling you, it's so much fun that you can have outside versus just sitting there and eat the snacks all day. You'll love it.
Mm-hmm. I asked my nephew a couple of times, like, have you ever climbed a tree? Ever climbed a tree? You pick a tree and you climb that damn tree and see how far you can go. And he was like, no. I'm like, well, ask your daddy. Your daddy done climbed the tree. Me and your daddy and your auntie, we were climbing trees. And guess who fell out the tree the most? Me. I was a little, short, stubby, fat kid, but I would climb them trees. I would fall out the tree, shake the dirt off, and climb the tree again.
There you go. Keep it moving. As long as wasn't nothing broken, I wasn't bleeding, I'm gonna keep on moseying.
Right. Like, there was never a moment to where mama actually washed clothes that didn't have red mud or, that clay mud, grass stains. Like, we used to get dirty. Like, we were out, we were nature, go hiking through the woods, but those were the good old days.
Oh yeah, those was the fun times, especially when you had too much fun that day. You need to go in there and take a bath. You smell like outside. Well, that's what you wanted me to do.
Right. And you can't punish the kids and say, well, you're not going outside. They don't care. They don't. They're
Not
fine with being in
nowadays.
the house on their tablets. Like, you got to take the tablet and stuff away.
Right.
We used to get punished. Oh, you can't play, you can't watch TV, and you can't play the PlayStation. And so, okay, we can go outside. And so we would go out, we go outside, and we thought that we were slick. So we can go over to the friend's house and play their game system. But during that time, it was truly a village raising kids, because mama would call
Yes,
to
sir.
so-and-so and say, Matthew's on punishment. He can't watch TV. He can't play the game. So by the time I get there, I'm ready to pull one of them numbers. Because your mama said that you can't do this and you can't do that.
Oh, and that was the worst feeling growing up, knowing that you was in trouble. You finna get ready to go over a friend's house and have a good time, and the only thing you can do is sit there and just watch them have fun.
Mm-hmm. But growing up, it was truly a village. When I mean a village, the teacher call your mama, Miss Mama, Lil Jerome been acting up in school. I'm just letting you know. All right. So you already know, during that time, you could take a switch or a belt. Or an extension cord, or one of them wooden serving utensils. Like,
them little wooden paddles.
They don't know. These kids now, they don't know how good they had it when it comes to discipline. So we already knew we was in for it. And so I'm like, okay, we got to go home. All right. So you get a spanking from mom, or you might get a spanking from daddy. All right. Then your grandparents find out.
Yep.
Then you're going to get a spanking from them. Then, God forbid, your auntie, your uncles and your aunties live down the street. So you ain't going to get a spanking from them. Then you go to church. You get one from the pastor, the first lady, the deacon, the mother of the church.
See, they made it to where you thought about it. That I'm gonna let you get away with it one time. We're gonna go on spank you, go on down the line, and I want you to remember that. So the next time, do you want to go over here? Nah, I'm good. I got a line waiting on me if I do.
We had a family friend, God bless her soul, but we had a family friend, and she's no longer with us. Her name was Sherry, and I always used to thought she's the meanest person. I was like 4 or 5. I thought she was the meanest thing ever, because she was always fussing at me. But I had to realize the reason why she was fussing at me was because I was always getting to something around about the time that she came to visit. So she was one of them ones that was like, do it again. You ain't got to worry about mama or grandma getting you. I'm going to get you. Like, she was one of them ones. I'm going to come up to the school and check on you. And I'm looking like, but you're not my mama, though. Like, I didn't tell her that, but I'm thinking, like, and it wasn't until I grew up and I ran across her. I was an adult at the time. I ran across her, and I'm like, because she was battling cancer. And I'm like, how are you? And she was like, I'm doing good. I said, you know what? I just want to thank you for being that villager in that village to help raise me. And I always, when I run across her daughter, me and her daughter, we just laugh it up and stuff. I'm like, look, if your mama got on me the way she did, I feel bad for you and your siblings.
Because you get a little bit of leeway when you're not somebody else's kids. They try to be respectful, but they're gonna put you in your place. Now with your kids,
Right.
I wish you would say something. These mine, so it's 2 times harder than what I just got.
Right. It was like we were kids and we stayed in a child's place. You're not gonna disrespect no adult.
Right.
These kids now they be ready to fight the adults. And it's like, had I would have had a mere fraction of that, I would have died. My mama would have killed me.
Mm-hmm.
My head would have been rolling.
Man, somewhere between the washer and the dryer.
Right. Right.
See, kids these days, they just way too bold. They fighting the teachers, they fighting the police, they fighting their parents. It's just it's kind of like, they feel like they know everything. So what
Uh-huh.
you're trying to tell me, it doesn't, it don't count. They feel like they've been here before. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not fussing. I'm just trying to explain that I've seen exactly what you're seeing. It's just in a different time frame. So I'm trying to
Uh-huh.
prevent what you're running into before you get there. You know what I mean? That way we ain't got to come back to the conversation of, well, dang, I should have listened to y'all. I should have did this. I should have did that. So, I tell them all the time, don't take it as me fussing. Just take it as, like a lesson learned. You know what I'm saying? Just keep that in your memory bank for the next time something comes up like that. And you will already know how to approach that situation.
Uh-huh. And I was I've had this conversation a couple of times with my grandmother because when I was younger, I was a teenager there, like her and the members of her church, when I mean if they would just be always getting on the young people, like this was wrong with the young people. Young people do this, and young people do that. And so it was this guest pastor that it was during like the week of like the youth week or whatever. And he had came and was preaching or whatever. And me and one of my good friends, God rest her soul, she said, I looked at her and she looked at me. I'm like, look, now it ain't about a 10-minute walk from the church to my house. So whenever you ready to go, we gonna go. Because me and her looking at each other was like, we already know what's about to happen.
Right.
Right? You got two black gay people in an apostolic church in a Bible Belt town in a Bible Belt state. We already we already
Right.
knew what was going to happen. And so she went, he started preaching or whatever. And it was so much hate behind the message. And so he was like, oh, I see some ugly faces in the crowd tonight. And everybody, nosy people. Everybody looking around. Me and my friend looking like, grandma is like, fix your face. And I'm looking at her like, see, I'm gonna fix my face because you my grandma. When we
Right.
get in that car, yeah, you hold that thought. So we get in the car, and I'm like, grandma, see, here's the reason why the young people don't listen, why millennials don't listen to the older people, because you can't talk at us,
Right.
right? And like me, like I was, telling you yesterday, we're emotional. This generation is emotionally unstable for various reasons, right? So we enter adulthood being emotionally unstable.
Right.
That's unfortunately, that's just the nature of it. And so you can't talk at us because we're feeling like we're attacked. You got to
Right.
talk with us and talk to us as we navigate through it. Y'all just can't do all this yelling and all of that. That worked for y'all, and that worked
Right.
for our parents. That ain't working for us because when we lash out, then y'all feel like we wrong. You
Yep.
know,
You go ahead. Go ahead.
but we feel like y'all, y'all think that we're wrong, but the reality of it is internally we're feeling like because we're feeling attacked, then we're getting poked and we're getting backed up against the wall. Because if you ever realized it, when we get to the point that we be ready to buck up in somebody's face and just yell and cuss and do all of that, the time before that, we're getting poked. We're getting, we feel like we're getting attacked. So we're gonna come out swinging.
Right.
And it took my grandma some years to understand that.
I mean, I get exactly
So
what you're saying because I have 8 kids total. So
mhm,
out of all my children, I had to learn that everybody has a different personality. The same way that you just said, I need you to talk to me and not at me. I had to learn that same phrase with them. Some things I can do with my oldest, I can't do with my youngest. It's some things I can do with my middle child
mhm,
that I can't do with anybody else. So having these different personalities, I guess to them, because they're so old school and it's hammered into them just that one way, you know what I mean? It makes it difficult for them to change their ways, but at the same time, the younger people need to try to sit down and have that conversation and be like, look, I understand you're trying to get what's best for me out, but at the same time, this is how you make me feel. This is why I'm bucking up to you. And if you're any kind of parent that really love your child, you're gonna listen to them. You're gonna try to see the best way that you can to solve whatever issue that you got going on. But nowadays, parents are not being parents. They're letting their kids do whatever they want to. And I mean, that's why you have so many school shootings. That's why you have so many suicides because we're not even paying attention to our own youth. So I mean, if I can't come
mhm.
talk to you as my parent, I'm gonna follow everything else that's going on out in the world.
Yeah. um, and one of my cousins actually, one of my great aunts actually, her and I was having a conversation, and she was like, when it came down to raising your cousin, excuse me, I always make sure I created a safe space, because her brothers, because she has 3 brothers, her brothers were raised they were raised in a different generation, and so she was, and then my cousin is the only girl. So it was like, I'm going to create this safe space so that if you need to talk to me about anything, that you can talk to me about it.
Right.
And that benefited my cousin for so long, until her mother passed away, because she knew that anything adult related that she needed to know. I'm talking about from how to pay a bill to sexual intercourse. She was able to talk to my great aunt, and my great aunt have this conversation with her. And so, like I said, we you got to learn how to talk with people and not attack them, because when you attack them, they shut down. Me personally,
Yep.
I was that type of person. Like growing up, my brother and my sister, you know, my mom handled all 3 of us differently. So how my mom dealt with me, she cannot do the same with my brother and cannot do the same with my sister. I was the type of person that was like, okay, well, you know, I was more of an independent child and figured stuff out. And so when I heard no, I was the type of person, I was a go getter, and I never took no for an answer. So if
Right.
somebody said no, I was always the one trying to find another way of getting what I want. And so, but she expected more out of me in certain aspects in life, because I had already, it was easy for me to learn stuff and figure
Right.
stuff out. And so I was the one who got yelled at the most. She said because I was bad. I say because I was just misunderstood. But it's not my fault that I was misunderstood. So, and so she said, and me and her laugh over these conversations. She said, "Well, you was just a handful raising." I said, "Ma, it's not my fault. You misunderstood me." I'm like, "Look, I'm just doing what a child's supposed to do. Now, if you misunderstand me,
Right,
you just
right.
if I'm misunderstood, I'm just misunderstood. Like I can't help
Exactly.
that,
Can't. You
you know."
can't. And then they gotta realize too, that's something I realized, as being a parent finally, that the way that we was back then, oh my God, your kids are 10 times worse. And you just looking at them like, why? Where did you learn all of this crap from? But then you got to really think about it like, damn, I was that bad back there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't even fault you all the way for that.
Right. Right. Yeah. That one, as I look at it, and especially, I don't have kids yet, but when my nephew, when my nephew was born, and my brother asked me, "Well, when are you gonna have kids?" He was trying to be funny, but I answered the question anyway. And so I'm like, I don't think the world is ready for another one of me running around here. I mean, I just don't, whether whether I adopt or the child is, blood biologically mine. I don't, if I adopt, I still got to raise the kids. So it's like, I don't think y'all
Right,
ready I don't think the world's prayed up enough for another one of me running around here. I'm a handful in itself. Another me, hell no.
right.
We got to pray a little bit harder. So,
There you go. There you go. Because everything that you
like,
learn, you're
everybody
not
asking,
gonna
like,
let them go for it.
trying to spare y'all,
So I'm
right?
trying to do y'all a favor.
Try to
Slow
spare
down.
y'all, but y'all keep asking,
Exactly.
right?
Pump your brakes a little bit, bro.
Right. But so, did you have? There's this thing now. When you said that the parents are parenting in general, it's really different from way back when. You know, older generations may say, "Oh, it's the babies raising the babies," and I can agree with that to a certain extent. And that extent is because there are some people who have had kids at young ages, but they really grew up and they really done everything that they needed to do to take care of their children and raise their children accordingly. You know, I've seen parents who, they were like the parents were a handful as kids. Like they were bad. We went to school
Right.
with these kids. They were horrible, but their kids are nothing like how they were when they were those ages. And so, and I'm asking like, so when you found out that you were going to be a mommy, you found out you were going to be a daddy, like, how did you feel? And a lot of them, like, you know what? I had to grow up. I had to
Yeah.
grow up. And, these kids now, I mean, especially your Gen Alphas, I mean, they're like multiple Einsteins. Like they catch on to so much so quick.
Yes. Yes, they do.
You know,
They really do.
I've never known kids to be able to you studying for your math test, but you also to the TV, but you also know that the dog peed in the corner, and
Hmm.
you also know what your mama is in the kitchen preparing for dinner. all at the same time.
Right.
Like,
Mind
but
is all over the place.
right, but it works for them. It works for them, and some people say, well, when a child's mind is all over the place, they might have ADHD or things of
Yeah.
that nature. And I think I'm like, well, you know what? Now that we're so knowledgeable of these things, I think a lot of millennials should have been diagnosed with these same things, but they just we just didn't know
They
anything
didn't
about
catch it. Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I totally
Right.
agree. I totally agree. Because like now they're
And
coming out with different statements about Tylenol and different things like that that the women take when they're pregnant. That's what's causing some of these side effects. And like you said, the multitasking thing, they're all over the place. Like you said, they know what you're cooking, they doing this, they looking at their phone, watching TV all at the same time. And to me, it's ridiculous because my son does it. He can be playing the Xbox, but he's on his cell phone at the same time. And I'm like, well, which one are you playing? Oh, I'm doing both. I'm talking to this person over here, and then we're doing this up. You know what? You got that. Go ahead
mhm.
then, boss.
Yeah, and the thing about it is they still score an A on a math test. Like,
Yes. Yes. Like without studying the thing, it's
like
just like they're programmed.
right, because I know my nephew does not study the amount of time that a child should be studying, but
Right.
Joker makes honor roll like it ain't nothing. National Honor Society, Rotary Club, like, but you don't put no time and effort into studying. Like, I know you play more games and be on that cell phone more than you should be studying, and you still can score an A. I struggled to try, I had to study. We had to study when we were kids. We had to
Right.
do that because our brain wasn't retaining that. Somewhere down the line, I don't know, maybe I don't know if it's the artificial milk or whatever it is, but y'all can spend less time studying or no studying time at all and score an A.
Yeah, yeah, you sure right
You
about
know,
that. Because, like you said, I remember growing up as a kid, doing these tests and things like that. Every single day, we brought our books home because it was either homework or something that we need to study. Nowadays, kids say they do all their homework in the classroom. So if I'm doing everything there and not bringing anything home, what am I really learning? Is the question. How are you setting me up for
right.
success?
So what I can say is during the time that I was in, I want to say, fifth grade, going to sixth grade, there was a whole different learning technique, right? It was more of a hands-on learning.
Right.
Somebody, and whoever that somebody is, I'm glad God created you to understand that it was a different technique. And it was totally different. Like we had to. There was no more of just sitting in a classroom at a desk for 8 hours a day, learning all of this and thinking that we were going to retain this stuff. Like, no,
Right.
we were going up to the board and solving the math problem. We were dividing ourselves into groups and learning that way. It was by games. We create, games were created. These teachers were creating games. They were creating songs. My fifth grade teacher created about a whole album of songs, and until this day, this is how I remember how to do basic stuff by these songs. And I learned in fifth
Right.
grade, you know. And so one of my friends who was in the same fifth grade class, and she's now teaching her kids the same songs that we learned.
I see that
You
means
know,
that really did a lot for y'all then. If y'all able to retain that from the fifth grade until now, whatever they did to make y'all learn that song the way they put it, hey, they did a heck of a job because most people don't remember stuff like that.
mm-mm, like he took songs like uh I Will Survive. He took Ice Ice Baby. He took uh the theme songs to the Adams Family. He took um one of them nursery rhyme songs that I can't remember, but it was a lot of songs, and he changed up the lyrics.
Right.
And what he also did was like if we were learning fractions or measurements and stuff like that, like we would actually cook, learning what a teaspoon was, what a half a cup looked
Right.
like, and if you don't have the half a cup, how many teaspoons equal half a cup? Like he was on it. And what he did was the end of every week, he takes all of what we learned and put it into a game of who wants to be a millionaire. So we had this millionaire theme type of game, and we went like homework passes, reading log passes, prizes from the prize box, all that stuff like that. No, it was very fun. So what they did was uh, they realized that kids were more hands on now, and they started implementing that into school systems. So it kind of, and that's when the teacher knew exactly how how much that child has learned. If that child was a little slow on the learning of fractions, okay, now I know that, and um my high school teacher, when we was doing algebra, he take it out of the math book, he write it on the board, and we would go up there and solve it. And if we were right, great, congratulations. If we were wrong, he would walk us through what we were doing right and where we went wrong.
Right.
You know, and that's how we learn. And it wasn't a bashing thing. Kids wasn't laughing at us, this, that, and the third, because once you get to high school, you start doing all that algebra and trigonometry and geometry and all that stuff. Ain't nobody judging nobody.
Uh-uh. Because everybody's lost. Every single one of us looking at each other like, what is we supposed to do with this problem, teacher?
Right. But like you said, we because we have, parents now not really nurturing and creating that safe space, you now have teenagers going through this whole phase of depression, and not a phase, but going through this whole experience of depression and attempted suicide. And unfortunately, we've had situations to where suicide has taken place, and it's like, why? you know we're in this world where we know so much, and so much information is out there. Like, we have the podcast that tells you the information. You have books that tell you the information. You have motivational speakers that tell you the information. You have, the resources for the teachers that tell you all of this, the guidance counselors. You have all this information. But if the safe space is not created, then what good is the information?
I mean, that's a real
You
tough
know,
answer right there. Because I mean, like you said, you need that safe space to feel comfortable. You need to know that a person is actually listening and not judging you for the things that you are saying. And I feel like that's a lot of the reason people don't want to publicly come out and say those things because, you know, growing up in my generation, for men, it was, you know, suck it up, stick your chest out, you know what I mean? As long as you're not dead, keep trying, you know. So bottling all of that up, a lot of that is anger. A lot of that is, you know, people just don't see me as, you know, who I really am. Like you said earlier, you know, you were misunderstood. You wasn't bad. They just didn't understand you for the person that you were. So with some
Mhm.
people, you can gravitate all of that energy to be a better version of yourself. But for some, and I mean, even for myself, you know, I had a place in my life where I just felt like, you know, nobody really listened to anything that I had to say. You know, I even got to a point where, you know, I thought about what would the world be like without me. But then when I realized everything that I'm going through, you know what I mean? I talk to God, even though He doesn't talk back. You just have to sit back and listen. Don't talk, don't move, listen. Look for the signs that's pointing you in that right direction. You know, it's gonna be hard days, it's gonna be long nights. But at the end of the day, you know, I want to always let people know that everybody matters. Everybody has a voice. You know what I mean? So listening is the biggest thing that a lot of people need to understand now. You can't just talk at a person. You can't just talk through a person. You have to actually listen and let them know and make them understand that I'm not judging you. I'm just here to help. And I think the world will be a very, very better place if we had that implemented in everyday life.
When people who watch the podcast, and I'll get, messages from people who watch the podcast, and when these people tell me, I like what you're doing, and what you're doing it really has changed a lot of people's lives and will continue to change a lot of people's lives because now, you're creating this safe space, even if it's for an hour or an hour and a half, that someone could just pull all of those thoughts out of their heads and put it on that table and look at it and hear, you know, the what they need to do. And as you're speaking to these people, they can navigate through these things that you need to do. When I hear those kind of comments, those compliments, and those messages and emails, that lets me know that I'm doing what I was assigned to do and I'm fulfilling my life purpose. Because at the end of the day, it took 2 years to really grasp hold of exactly how I was going to do this podcast. And it took a lot of praying and meditating. And I had to detach myself from implementing a belief because of some kind of traumatic experience that I experienced from my past, and really talk with the people. And there were a lot of times in like previous episodes to where I'm about to go in, I'm about to go in, but I had to pull myself back because it's like, okay, if I don't pull myself back, then it will be feeling as if though I'm attacking the person. And I'm really not directing anything towards anybody. It's just general conversation.
Right.
And when I'm asked, well, what made you start the podcast? And my answer will always be because I was tired of seeing people in pain and stuck. Like, I see so much in people, and I'm like, she could be great. He's going to be wonderful. They're going to be great parents. He's going to make a great husband. And I see so much like this is the next president of the United States. This is this is the next general in an army. And so, but they're stuck. And I got tired of seeing people stuck. It annoyed me to see people stuck. And it wasn't in a judgmental way. It was because go, you can do it. Like, come on, come on. And they did not have the knowledge and the wisdom, and they were trying to figure it out. And some of these people, they were just tired. And some of these people, they gave up. And some of these people, they just, they were just numb. And it's like, I got to that moment that I'm like literally on the patio in 32-degree weather. And, and I'm talking to God. I'm like, God, I'm tired of seeing these people hurting because they in this stuck moment. And it's not that they don't want to put in the effort. It's because they don't know. Like they lack the knowledge, and I'm like, okay, now I have all this knowledge that you have allowed me to gather. You know, I offer myself up to you as a living sacrifice. Okay, so God, when we gonna do this? When we gonna do what we need to do, to reach out to the people?
Right.
Was a podcast something that I thought would be part of the answer? Absolutely not. It just wasn't. But he utilized the trend. We have so many people who love watching a podcast, or listening to a podcast, on social media. So he was taking all of these trends. I'm like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to use something that now is so poisonous and so toxic, and we're going to take that, we're going to utilize it for the greater good. So yeah, we have all of these wellness podcasts and all of these things like that, and this is how we're going to reach out to the people. So when I'm starting the podcast and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put it out. And people will listen to it whenever they run across it. I'm going to advertise it, me being the learning how to do a intro. I'm creating the intro, the background, the graphics, the promos, the whole nine. I'm going to do all of that. I'm going to make it look catchy, put in a funky little beat, nice, vibrant colors. I'm using psychology. Like, what is somebody attracted to? They're attracted to colors and beats and all of it. I'm going to use all of these things. I'm going to promote the podcast. And whenever they listen to it, then that's the season that they need to listen to it in. And I'm going to put it on multiple platforms. I'm going to put it out on YouTube. I'm going to put it out on Facebook. I'm going to make a whole Tapping Into Life Facebook page. So it'll be on my personal Facebook, the Tapping Facebook, and YouTube. They gonna look, it's gonna be reaching people. And when you go and you see these views, and I'm like, I didn't know it was gonna be that many people in this short amount of time.
Right.
So, and you have other people, they sharing it. Like, they're sharing it. And you get so-and-so like this episode of the podcast. Who is that? And you got to remember that somebody done shared it, or somebody told somebody about it, And so I'm sitting here, I'm got like all these, these followings and stuff like that. And I always said, I don't care how many followers I have, as long as I'm, as long as I'm changing lives, as long as somebody is listening and taking these things and applying it to their lives for the better. If fame and money comes from it, praise God. But I will always be humble and stay in my focus on why I'm here. And this is why I'm here. Because and then I told someone, I said, I'll be damned if I know somebody's going through something and it is kicking their ass, and I just walk by and not say anything or do anything. I said, that would defeat the whole purpose of my existence and my purpose, on this planet, But I mean, just to see that. And one person reached out to me. She said, look, I don't have a podcast. She said, I am a therapist and I don't have a podcast, but I commend you on being, she said, I looked at some of your episodes. She said, I commend you on being a man doing, mental health awareness and how to navigate through it and healing and trauma. And I commend you on being a Black man doing those same things. She said, because a lot of men need to hear this. And if you do ratio of, life coaching and podcasting, if you do the ratio men to women is so many more platforms, like millions of platforms, that women have, that life coaching, that mental health awareness and how to navigate through trauma, whether it be abuse, whether it be addiction, whether it be rape or molestation. Like, it's so many women doing that. But what about the men? It's only a fraction, and that bothered me when she said that kind of bothered me, because I was just getting into the whole podcast thing and the life coaching thing, so I really hadn't done my research. But when she was giving me these links and stuff, and I'm actually doing the research, and it's like, yeah, that bothers me. So I appreciate you doing your podcast and really doing the same thing that I'm doing, because it's not a lot of us.
Right. Right. You're right about that. And like you said earlier, it's not about the money. It's not about the fame. For me, kind of like how you talked about yours, the reason I started mine was because, you know, as a man, you have all of these different thoughts. We're afraid of being judged, and you know how society is. So me, as a thinker as I am, I thought to myself, like, I know I can't be the only person that then either went through something like this or something similar. It's got to be other guys out there that's having a hard time trying to go through each and every day, and just need somebody that will talk to them, listen to them, the brotherly love type thing. And that's what really pushed me to do the podcast. And I mean, it gets a lot of weight off of your shoulders. You're able to think clearer and make better decisions, because you're really not worried about what the world thinks anymore. Because if I cut you and you cut me, we both bleed the same color. That's why I don't understand why we're prosecuted so much for showing that we have emotions. Like, I'm not a robot. I have feelings. I hurt, I ache, I love, I cry, all of these different things. So why is it so different for men to say how they feel versus, like you said, it's plenty of women that got podcasts and they're talking about men and relationships and feelings and trauma. We should be able to do the same exact thing without any judgment, because I guarantee you there's somebody out there that didn't went through something I went through, something you went through, and it just made their day so much easier knowing that they're not alone.
And the reason why you have men in these situations, to where when you're looking at these mass shootings and these school shootings, and no matter what age they are, you've never seen a woman, but you've always seen a man.
Yeah.
You've always seen a male, whether it was a male child or a male adult, always seen a male. And so, why are, this is like a rhetorical question, but why are we getting to the point to where men have to go, excuse me for my language, batshit crazy in order for you to understand that they have emotions? It's like, if all humans have emotions, why do we contradict ourselves in only allowing women to express those emotions? And when everybody, men and women, should be expressing those emotions. And now we having these men, these male kids or these male adults, they're performing, all of these actions and stuff like that. Even when you go like on the what do you call that? The ID channel, you
Yeah.
know, and when people are taking when men are taking the lives of other people, like there are more murders performed by men than there are performed by women. And they go and they start investigating the life, like how was the person raised and all of this stuff like that. Like if you have like a someone who is constantly sexually assaulting somebody, and it's like a serial type of thing, like we gotta unpeel the childhood and the stuff like that. And and it's like, okay, you just found the answer. Why is Tom doing this to 50 women or 50 men? Look how he was raised.
Right.
That's an effect of a traumatic experience. And when we use trauma, we think it has something to do with, like a scary moment, like pain or like a car accident or, not necessarily. It could just be it could be an 18-year environment that you were raised in. Trauma is also deadly. Sometimes trauma is like carbon monoxide. You don't know it's present until it takes an effect.
Right. Until it's too
And
late.
so why, now we got this thing called mental health and mental health awareness and identifying trauma. And so when we're investigating these things and we're peeling back the layers, and it's like, now I understand. Though I don't condone it, now I understand why this person is in this headspace that he feels as if though it's okay to do this and think he's going to get away with it. Now I understand that. Because if you look at a lot of these kids that do these shootings, and you look at that, and a lot of them were what? Bullied. A lot of them were bullied. Okay, so they were bullied because they didn't express the pain of them being bullied during that time, because as a male growing up during those times, that thing called you know what I mean.
I got you. Toxicity.
Masculine toxicity, whatever it is.
Yeah. Masculinity.
Toxic masculinity. That's and so you have this thing called toxic masculinity, and it's still here to this day. Fortunately, it's beginning to kind of dwindle on strength, but you had these things that was embedded in how society worked. So like you said, boys were not crying. They were not expressing their anger. And if they were expressing their anger, it was to the point that they just exploded and they were punching somebody, shooting somebody, whatever, And these people were bullied. Okay, they could, like I said, they couldn't express their anger because of toxic masculinity and how boys should be operating. And it suppressed them to the point that, they went so far that there was no return. Like you couldn't grab them back. It was done. So once that trauma started affecting the mind, that's a whole different beast. So now it's what was placed in the spiritual atmosphere of that individual is now feeding the mind. And what does it do? The mind feeds the emotions. And when it starts feeding the mind and the emotion, it starts affecting the soul. And by the time the soul then grabbed it and start producing those fruits, sometimes it speaks in the manifestation of physical actions, i.e., sexual assault, gun violence, suicide. And, people ask, well, oh my God, why would he do such a thing? Like, how could this happen? Yeah, because for so many years, it was infecting the spirit, it was infecting the internal. It just now manifested. So that trauma did not really, or those, how that person is, did not just be, it just wasn't existing over a period of months. It was existing period of years. You just didn't know about it,
Right.
and it's like, you look at gang violence and you look at gang members and you get a lot of these gang members who have left that lifestyle. And when you talk to them, they say, I felt like this. And the reason I felt like this was because I grew up in this situation and I grew up in this neighborhood and experienced this atmosphere because mommy did this, daddy was that, and
Right.
it explains a lot. But they also say, I couldn't go and tell nobody, toxic masculinity, boys won't supposed to cry, boys won't allowed to do this, that, and the third. And it's like, okay, so, and that's why I said, when me and you were talking yesterday, I'm like, if toxic masculinity was a person standing on trial, how many murders would he be charged for?
Man, only thing I can reply to that is a lifetime. Is a lifetime, because you got to think about it. It's a lot of men that's out there. It's a whole lot of men. Whether you straight, you bisexual, you gay, whatever the case may be, you hold on to so much hatred, so much pain. Like you said, trauma is not just, a car accident or something like that. It's something that developed over a period of time. And sometimes when you going through that, you lose who you are. Because it's times that people get up and they go look in the mirror to wash their face and they just looking. They don't know where this new version came from because, of what society says or what you tried to change yourself to be to make this person happy or that person happy, instead of, looking within yourself and always knowing and being happy with yourself. You turn into this person that has no emotion, and you're working like a computer, you're working like clockwork. Well, I know this is what's going to make them happy, so I'm going to continue to do that without worrying about my physical self, without worrying about my needs. And at the end of the day, it's tiring, it's draining. It's a lot of men that sit here and they scream bloody murder in the inside because you will never see it. But once you get to that point, you're over the edge, you're over the ledge. Whether you kill your spouse, or you do yourself or something like that, you've just been at a point in life where you just feel nothing is gonna change. I might as well just go get it over with. The people that hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you back, and then I'm gonna take myself out. That's how a lot of them look at it nowadays.
And unfortunately, that's how a lot of situations have ended. And like I said, if you really talk to a lot of people, a lot of men, you would find that that's the case. When all, and this is why this is a safe space, and for anybody, but particular, here lately, the number of guests were majority men, um, because that male saw that they could come onto a platform and have a conversation with another male about things that are kicking both of our behinds, about things that we're doing good at maneuvering through it, but we need a little more knowledge with it.
Right.
And it was the guest before you, him and I was having a conversation. He was like, and once again, like we did like a little, excuse me, a pre a pre-phone call. And so one thing he said, and I brought it up again on the podcast, and I said, one thing he said was, the word it's kind of not good to where a male who is black or can have a conversation with a male of a different race, because that male whom is black feels that they can't resonate because of race. And so we actually went into, part of that episode, we went to that conversation to where, my thing is, and I told him, I said, look, this is what you brought up, and I want to bring it back, and I want to bring it on the episode because that's true. And I'm like, it kind of shook me up a little bit, and it kind of broke my heart a little bit, because that was true. Like, you have a lot of, men of one race feeling like they can't have that conversation, with men of a different race because they're not like us. And if they're not like us, they don't know everything I've been through. And one thing I told him, I said, if anything that, any fact that we can bring up, the only fact is you can't tell me how to navigate through the experience of someone who is African American because you're not African American. But when it comes down to hurt, pain, trauma, addiction, that doesn't discriminate against race.
Right. It's all universal.
It's a universal thing. Like, trauma is universal. You know what I'm saying? And you can learn a lot from the next person who may be of a different race going through the same thing. I've learned a lot from somebody like that. I used to work with somebody, and me and him are still good friends to this day, where, him and I was talking, and I asked him one day, I said, have you ever thought about hurting yourself? And he looked, and I already knew the answer to it. But he looked at me, and I looked at him, and like both of us was about to start crying. I said, now, dude, we be at work. We can't be going up to the desk, eyes red and eyes glossy and tears running down our face because we done had a whole moment. And so what I did, I grabbed him and I hugged him tight. You know what? Don't you ever in this lifetime think that you don't have anybody who's been through the same thing that you've been through. And don't you ever think that the best way out is to take your own life. And if you feel like you're having one of those moments, you call me up. And you call me up, and that make sure you call me up. I don't care if it's 3:00 in the morning and I done got me, and it's raining and I'm snuggled in my blanket with some good sleep. You make sure that you hit me up, because the last thing I'm gonna do is see you take yourself up out of here and I not do anything. The last thing I'm gonna do is see you going through so much and I not do anything. Like, because I've been there and I didn't like it. So I'm gonna make sure if I come out of this, I'm taking everybody else that's out of this. We all gonna win together. And him and I have been friends to this day. Because that bothered me. Somebody going through the same mental health that's called depression, getting to that point to where they contemplate taking their lives. And so this is why we need to have more male figures out there, and don't get me wrong. We've had all these organizations like the Big Brother program, or, we've had these organizations or these groups or whatever. But in my opinion, it's kind of hard to maintain because there's no government funding. There's no state funding there. You know what I'm saying? So you literally have to bend over backwards for a nonprofit organization and get grants. And even nowadays, those grants they're hard to come by because people decide they want to utilize those grants for every other reason outside of what they should be using it for. So now you're making it harder for people like you and I to really do what we need to do. So now,
Right.
hey, we're on the podcast, we're on social media because that's the easiest thing to do when it comes down to really reaching out to our fellow brother, white, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, whatever the race or the culture or the ethnicity is. It's kind of hard for men to do that because at the same time we're still embedded, that toxic masculinity is still embedded in my generation, in your generation. Fortunately, now that we have these little kids and the amount of toxic masculinity that is being embedded into these little boys after us, fortunately, you don't see it as much. You don't see it as much. And people can bring up for whatever reason and this, that, and the third. But the blessing is you don't see it as much because millennials barely made it in their childhood with this thing called toxic masculinity. The generations after us wouldn't stand a fighting chance. And that's a scary thing. That.
I mean, yeah, you're right. That is a scary thing because like you said, this new Gen Z, they are very, very emotional. You know what I mean? They can take a lot of information in, they can do a lot of things all at once. But emotionally, I don't think they're all there. They're ready to self-destruct at any moment because the world is just it's so crooked, it's so hateful. And a lot of kids don't understand that the world will really chew you up and spit you back out five or
Yeah.
six times throughout your whole life. And some people, they just can't, they can't shake it because they feel like I've either failed myself, my parents, friends, they for that emotional hurt, they take it to the heart. And if I hurt you, I hurt me. You know what I mean? So if you're down and you're out, you know what I mean? A lot of these they make pacts with each other. We're best friends. We're going through the same thing, but I feel like I'm family. I'm gonna kill myself this time, and you're gonna do the same thing, type thing. For me, it frustrates me because if kids would take the time to make their parents understand what's going on, things will be a whole lot different. But like you said, with this toxicity that's going on, nobody's listening to anybody. I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, or I'm talking at you or talking over you, and nobody's getting anybody's point of view on anything that's going on. So that really hurts us as society because once you finally find that one person or those three or four people that you may have a connection with, depending on how everybody mindset is, you're gonna kind of go with the flow type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't know. I'm getting lost for words here because, like you said, it does hurt because going through what I've went through and then everything that you see on TV nowadays, you know, kids killing kids for what? They're so innocent, but you're holding on to all this rage because Billy used to beat you up from sixth grade to eighth grade, and now you done came up with this plan. I'm gonna take you and all your buddies out because y'all used to embarrass me every single day, and nobody did anything about it. Nobody's listening.
When and not being was something that I experienced as a child. I felt like I wasn't being heard, and then there were a lot of times to where I expressed how I felt, but nobody heard it. And I wasn't being, there was sometimes I may have been yelling, but then there was some times that it was very calm and I was very respectful. But when you're that strong-willed person and you go and you take that, that opportunity to express whatever grievance or whatever is bothering you, you're that strong-willed person. You're the one that's always there. So people automatically assume, okay, you'll be okay. You'll get through it. I understand, Matthew's a little upset, but he'll get through it. He's a strong-willed person. The strong-willed people need need that support system too. We need, that encouragement too. Because sometimes life gets us down and we don't know which direction to go and we don't know which way to turn. We don't know we want to look to the left, the right, up or down. And what, I was one of those people because I always was that strong person. I always knew so much and how to accomplish so many things that when I had those moments, I felt like I wasn't being heard because nobody was there. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I say something, so now I gotta up the ante. All right. So now it's gonna be some yelling, it's gonna be some rage type stuff. And it's like, you're wrong. You shouldn't have done that. You should have been a bigger person. Y'all was the bigger person 3 weeks ago when I was telling y'all how I felt, and y'all ignored it. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
And so it's like at some point, one is going to explode. Whether it's through
right,
yelling, through a fist, or through a deadly weapon, there's going to be an explosion because nobody wants to listen. There's people who, oh yeah, can you be there for me? And then when it's time for you to be there for that person, you're not there. And so, but you can expect someone to be okay when they're not being heard. And so for me, that's where the depression came in. And then even after that, there was one girl who I did not know. I was like hold on. Because she was a freshman at the time, so I had to be a sophomore. And so this little girl, cute, tiny, light-skinned little girl, pretty little girl. Hi, Matthew. And I'm looking. Now, mind you, I was depressed. I was grouchy. I was never in the mood to do anything. You know how depressed people be. And so I'm looking at her like, hi. In the back of my head, I'm like, who is that? So she was like, you can smile. And I'm like, I don't feel like smiling. Why not? I don't feel like smiling. And she said, okay. So every day, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to pick with you until you smile. And I'm looking at her like, oh, she got big ones because don't nobody be sitting here talking to me and I'm this damn depressed. Like, oh, she okay. And she was so tiny. And so I'm like, okay. So if somebody think that they can stand toe to toe with me in the headspace that I'm in, I'm gonna let them try. I'm gonna let them try. And she said, you're not going nowhere till you smile. So I gave a little smile. And ever since then, from that day until the time I graduated, if she saw me and I was not smiling, she would the day could not go on until she did something to make me smile. And I wish, because she is no longer with us,
It's okay, brother. Take your time.
And I wish that I could really thank her. And I always said, I will have time to thank her. We gonna run across each other again. You know, her parents live in the same county as as me, because I was living there, still living there at the time. I said, we gonna have plenty of time. And I'm gonna hug her. And at that moment, I'm gonna thank her. And I'm gonna show her so much appreciation, because that little girl sparked a light inside of me when I thought that I couldn't shine anymore, when I thought that that spark was gone. God used that little girl to call me, to really call me out and spark that light. And when I found out that somebody had taken her life, I was numb, I was hurt, I was angry, I was pissed the fuck off, because that girl didn't thank nobody. And what she did, the same thing she did with me, she did with so many people. When people were feeling down, she stood there and she shined. As tiny as she was, the girl shined. And all you could do was call her name. And all you could do, all I could do was just even in spirit, just, God, I know you God, I know you powerful, and I know that little girl is sitting with you, chit-chatting away. Tell her I said thank you. And when I get up there, I'm going to tell her thank you. But for right now, you go ahead and you tell her thank you. And that little girl name was Faith. And I will forever be grateful that God created this little girl. Because during that time in my depression, I thought nothing could change. I thought it was too far gone. I thought, I was too far and it was no return. And those were the moments that I contemplated taking my life. And it was 2 times prior to me talking to her. And she just came out the woodwork, and it's like, okay. And every now and then I think of her. I think of her and say, God, tell her I said thank you again. Because there would never be enough thank yous that I could thank this girl. Because just like she was such an impact on the lives of other people, I was one of those people. And this is why we need to start having conversations about situations like this. We need to start having conversations about if we're hurt, there need to be safe spaces. Because let's be honest, ain't nobody gonna open up their mouth if there's no safe space. And if they do open up their mouths, it is so much rage behind it that it'll be late to create a safe space.
Right,
Because the
right.
damage is done, the explosion is happening. And so to have, and this is why, like I told you yesterday, this is why I don't, on this platform, this ain't no interview. This is the conversation. Because we're going to
Right.
laugh, we're going to cry, and we're going to agree, we're going to disagree, but we're going to have this conversation because people can
Right.
resonate. They can
And
resonate.
I mean that from what you were saying, that it really touched me, because right there at that moment when you said you was at your darkest, you was walking through the school halls, you know what I mean? You had so much on your in your head, on your heart. You might have seen this girl plenty of times before she started talking to you. But to know that she was kind of like your guardian angel and others' guardian angels, to change your spirit, to let you know that it may hurt for the moment, but I promise you, you're gonna get through it. That was a
Mhm,
blessing in itself. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And when I came across your channel, it was something about the way that you spoke. And to me, that reeled me in, because a lot of people nowadays, they feel like you have to sell a different version of yourself in order for people to listen. And with you, it's all authentic. You're gonna be who you're gonna be. If you don't like it, say your opinion. You can either keep coming back and watching me, or you can move on to the next thing. But you don't try to be something that you're not. And with that, I really do commend you. I swear I do. Like you said, we need more and more brothers to get on here. And it's not just for a pity party, because like we talk about every single day, the weight of the world, being a man, having to provide, having to protect, having to make sure that the finances and everything else is taken care of. That is a lot to push through every day, every moment of your life. When you have different
Mhm.
personalities that you have to think of, job wise, wife wise, that's a lot for a man. And just being able to
Mhm.
have that safe space, as you said, that creates a place where I can woosah. You know what I mean? I can have my glass of wine or sip my beer, and me and my buddies, we can talk, shoot the stuff, have fun, you know what I mean, and kind of forget about the day without really knowing that I've expressed how I felt to you. You've expressed how you felt to me. We overcame it. We forgot about it, and now the energy is so much clearer because you didn't
Mhm.
talk at me. You listen. You didn't judge me. You listen, and that's so important. And I really, 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 really do thank you for what I mean, taking this time out and giving me the opportunity to come on here, because more people need to hear it. We need more people in the world just like you.
I I really, 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 really do. I appreciate that. And like I said, nowadays, really not a keen fan of the spotlight, but you know, when the recognition and the flowers when they're given, I do humbly appreciate it. Because I know how long I need to be in the light before it's time to, you know, put that light on somebody else. And one thing about about the Tapping into Life LLC, the whole movement. Like I got a notebook full of so much stuff that I got to, start researching and doing, and it's like it's far past a podcast, and I remember I just got finished doing an episode of the podcast, and I'm like, that was a good topic. I feel so great about that topic, and I'm like, thank you, God. God was like, your podcast is bigger than what you think it is. And I'm like, okay, I imagine it this big. You telling me it's bigger than this big? Like, you know, and like right after that, it was this idea, research this, do the blueprint for this, do the blueprint for that. And I'm like, okay, now hold on. So I got my little notepad and I'm writing down all of this stuff. Next thing you know, I was on North Carolina clerk office registered Tapping into Life for an LLC. Because I mean, it had to happen in order for me to be able to do all of this stuff.
Right.
And this is just not for like I told you earlier, it's not for clicks and views. This is something that's going to change the world. I know that when it's time for me to have 2 commas in the bank account, that's going to happen. You know, I know that my dream home, is going to be there. I already know these rewards, even my place in heaven is going to be there. I'm not worried about that because it was already spoken. But I need to make sure that the brother, that the sister, that the little boy and little girl have what they need And so, like I said earlier, to hear people say, great job, you really nailed that one on the head. This is what was needed to be heard. Look, okay. And I think I'm like, God, you send more ears over here. So I mean, I have really, really, really enjoyed doing this for the 3 seasons that I have done it. This is the third season. So and it's so many more seasons, and so much stuff after that, and just talking to people and people understanding that though I am the life coach, though I am the ordained elder, though I am, the person that God has created me to be, I was once where you were. And I'm not the type of person who I'm up here but forget where I come from, because this one up here is going to kindly come down here to where you are at that moment in your life. And I'm going to sit there on that bench with you, and me and you going to chit chat, and you're going to navigate this together. Because the up here, that means nothing to me. That just automatic, that just says to everybody that I know a lot of knowledge as it pertains to whatever. But that's not
Right.
my assignment. My assignment is not to always be up here. It's to periodically, when needed, come down here and say, hey, let's do this.
Right.
Let's do this, But I really do appreciate you having me on, because I'm gonna tell you, it is I like receiving that spiritual food, you know, because sometimes even the strongest, they still need that confirmation that they're doing a
Definitely.
good job and keep going.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
I really appreciate you coming up. I didn't mean to have you on here this long.
Oh, you fine. You are fine. Hey, like you said, it didn't even feel like an interview process. We just shooting the stuff, old friends from back in the day, just having a conversation. And it felt so normal. It felt so, you know what I'm saying, good. It wasn't no bad vibes, no bad energy. You know what I mean? It was more so, I'm gonna say what I have to say. Let me hear your point of view. You say what you have to say. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell you what I feel, but at the same time, collectively, you wanted everybody to know that this is a safe space. No judgment here. Come out, let's lay it all out on the line, and let's keep making the world a better place, baby.
Right, right. So before we get out of here, tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Uh, well, the name of my podcast is called Speaking the Truth TV. And I talk about a wide variety of things because I like to be honest with people, so it's more so mental health in general, relationships, family problems, family issues, dealing with depression. You know what I mean? I want people to know that no matter what you go through in life, no matter what it is, being able to make your voice be heard and not just be an afterthought, for you to feel comfortable in your own skin and not worry about what the next person has to say about you. Because how I look at life is, misery loves company. And if you're always hanging around this person that's just negative about everything, maybe you need to think about having new friends. Maybe you need to channel yourself into a positive light, into a positive way, so you can start seeing the flowers grow in your garden, if you want to put it that way. You know what I mean? Because everybody don't want you to succeed. Everybody is like, okay, well, you're putting yourself out there thin, but I'm only human. I'm only human. I can't be nothing more, nothing less. So there on my platform, it's just a spot for everybody to, well, not everybody, but people to come in and voice their opinion. It's a place for people to come in and say, man, look, if you want to be anonymous, you can be anonymous or whatever. But it's a place where you can come in and be like, look, me and Sasha might have had this kind of, what I'm saying, problem. And instead of Sasha listening to what I had to say, this is what happened. And just for that person to be able to get that off their chest, I'm telling you, it makes it so much easier. Because as a man, whether you're black, white, Puerto Rican, no matter what your nationality is, it's so hard for us in this world, in this day and time, to find people that generally love you for who you really are. So being able
Mm.
to give these men a voice, being able to, what I mean, sit back and, like you said, cry, listen, laugh, talk, being able to spark somebody's day and make them feel better about some of the things that's going on in life. That's my main mission right there.
Okay. So is it Speaking the Truth TV? Is that all one word?
Yes.
And what platform can we access this podcast?
You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on Instagram as Speaking the Truth TV 86. Facebook, Walking Through the Rain 86. Just those a couple of places that I'm on right now, and I'm trying to expand it but for right now, you know, those are the places that you'll be able to find me.
Okay. All right. No, because so send me the link, and then when because I really gotta get in the habit of, because it's pointless in asking people what they're about their platforms and then don't promote it when their episode actually airs. So forgive me for the ones that I have not done.
He said, I'm
Look, this
trying to
whole
do better,
podcast
y'all.
is new to me. And one person may say, well, you've been doing it for 3 seasons. Yeah, but I've been on the podcast for 1 year. So it's
Right.
like,
It is totally different than what you think.
So, especially when you don't have that whole production team and you got to do everything yourself. And it's
Oh
like,
my
oh my
goodness.
God. And then you got to do your whole 9 to 5 and be a family person too. And I'm like, okay, this is a lot going on.
You sure right about
This is
that.
a
Cause
lot going
some days I don't know how we even make it. We running off 2-3 hours of sleep, and we just got to keep maintaining and pushing that mission. You know what I mean? As long
on.
as we
Right.
out here helping people that need us, or like you said, we may need them. We might be putting out something that we're talking about, and the way they explain their experience, it might help us in a way that we never thought about. So, it's
Right.
kind of like a two-way street. I'm helping you, you helping me type deal.
Right. Okay. Okay. But no, we're actually going to talk a little bit later. Because I got a birthday dinner I got to get to at 4. I got to do some other stuff before then, and well, see, your date was set. So the birthday dinner was set like a few weeks ago.
Right.
Your date was set earlier, like for the exact time. All that other stuff in between came after. So it's like, look, this got to get done. All right. Because
Right.
I've been trying to stay committed to people. So this is gonna have to get done right here. But no, we will actually I actually text you when I get off here. But I hope everybody had an amazing time tuning in and enjoying the conversation with Mr. Charlie. Is it Bonner? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, you got it right. You said it
Okay.
right.
Because I got a habit of slaughtering people's names. But no, thank you for coming on and having this conversation. It was much needed for me, and I know it was much needed for a lot of people.
No problem, man. I really do appreciate you having me on. And like once again, I'm gonna say I love what you do. Keep motivating people because we all may need it. Just keep doing what you're doing, brother. The sky's the limit.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to get out of here. Everybody remember to go to Speaking the Truth TV on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, comment, share. What else do you do? Tell a friend to tell another friend, share it on social media, tag it, whatever it is you got to do, because this is a movement. I'm looking forward to listening to your podcast, because I listen to a podcast in a minute. I got so many podcasts, and they just on my list, and I'm just going down the line. And the information that has been given, listening to these people and the guests that they have, I mean, it's just so remarkable, but we doing it. So, but we're going to get out of here. Everybody, please remember to like, share, subscribe to the Tapping Into Life page. And until next time, we'll see you next week.